Good evening. I'd like to invite everyone, welcome everyone to the Planning Board meeting, 8:21, and I'm opening the meeting at 6:31. Charlene, if you could take a roll call, please.
Richard Anthony.
Here.
Karen Robinson.
Here.
Laura Millette.
Here.
Tim Moore.
Excused.
Tom Alberti. Dan Kane. Noah Pelletier. And Daryl Britton's in for Bill or Jay? Both.
Bill's excused. All right. If you haven't already taken a look at the minutes, please, we don't need to appoint anyone, do we?
Without Tim, are you gonna,
Yeah, I think
who was it?
we're going to appoint Tom Alberti,
Tom?
the alternate filling in for Tim Moore. All right, so if you haven't already, please take a look at the
I didn't bring my purse.
minutes, and
Wait a minute. I got one. One second. I thought I forgot my purse.
I'll entertain a motion to accept them. All right.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Just one adjustment, I guess. Under new business, Charlene, I guess, I'm assuming that says under 190 Road bond set, Chairman Anthony read into the record. So it probably just needs to fix that.
Okay.
It says tread into it. All right. I second Darrell's motion to accept the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
All right, so
I just has my wrong initial on page 6. That's it.
Who was the second on that?
I seconded.
You did, sorry, Richard.
Yeah.
So what do we have here?
Good.
It has my wrong initial on page 6. It's
So.
just like a,
3, right?
it's probably just a typo.
320?
Yep.
All right,
No, it was 302.
32302.
302. Yes.
Roland.
Nolan.
Nolan, you said you had some,
It's just my wrong initial on page 6. I think it was just a typo. Should be an N instead of an R.
Accept the minutes. Do we revote? Do we make an adjustment? It's mine.
That's fine. I can be rolling.
Yeah, just the type. Yeah. Unless we want to call him Roland from now on.
Please don't.
all right. Our Pelletier. All right. All right, first public hearing. EB 2409, the completeness of an application from Strategic Real Estate Management LLC for a site plan. The site plan proposes a park and ride for tractor trailers with drainage, landscaping, and lighting at 45 Westville Road, tax map 26, lot 36, in the C1 zoning district. The property owner of record is 45 Westville Road Realty LLC. If the application is found to be complete, the planning board may immediately conduct the public hearing. All right. All right, I move to accept the application for site plan that proposes a private tractor trailer park and ride at 45 Westville Road, tax map 26, lot 36 is complete. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Lori. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
All right. Abstain? All right, so 301. All right.
Pat, did you want to lead in? Did you want to lead in? Okay. Charlie Zilch from SCC and Associates, here on behalf of the owner of 45 Westville Road Realty LLC and the applicant Strategic Real Estate Management LLC, both owned and operated by Cabot Smith, who's here with us in the audience behind us. With me is attorney Pat Panciaco, also representing the owner and the applicant. And if you'd like, I could take a minute to kind of run through the property and the proposal that we have before you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So the property includes 3.8 acres, and this might be best viewed on sheet 2 of the plan set. Like I said, it's 3.8 acres. It has 659 feet of continuous frontage along Westville Road. The site is located approximately about 600 feet from Route 125. The property also abuts other commercial uses. You have Freedom Auto and Tire, Scandia Plastics, also with frontage along Westville Road on that same side of the road. Across the street, there's some residential rental and condominium developments. Everybody's probably familiar with the location of the property.
Yes.
So a little bit of the history. The property was formerly used by the state of New Hampshire as a park and ride. It's located entirely within the C1 zone. It is subject to the Aquifer Protection District, but it's not within a flood hazard zone, nor is it in the shoreland protection zone. There is one wetland, as you can see, on the property extending north to south between the developed area, meaning the parking lot, and the area at the rear, which abuts the B&M Railroad. Everybody can see where that is. So the state of New Hampshire acquired the property from the Smiths. It's been in the Smiths family for a while. They acquired that in 1995 by taking. At the time, the state needed projects to offset emissions to qualify for federal funding, and Smiths have been working with the Rockingham County and Merrimack Valley Planning Commissions to develop it as a private park and ride for their coach/bus company that provides service to Boston, New York, and Montreal. So the state acquired it and then developed the property, but in 2022, the property went up for sale, and the Smiths bought it back from the state of New Hampshire. So it served as a park and ride for a while. Ultimately, that use was no longer necessary, and the Smiths were able to acquire the property back. So what had happened, once the state had acquired the property, they had developed it. And the developed area of the property includes a 2.2 acre curbed and paved parking lot, which has 2 access points from Westville Road. I think everybody can see that, both on the north and south side of Westville Road, there's access. Presently, there are 270 standard parking spaces, as well as space to support bus transportation, with areas reserved for pickup, drop-off, as well as bike racks. So the property itself slopes downward away from Westville Road, and its curbing directs stormwater into several catch basins located at low points where it is captured and redirected into storm drains located under Westville Road to lot 26-41, which is behind the Woodland condominiums, into a stormwater management pond. So basically the water is captured at Westville Road, directed to the back of the property, and then it is basically reverses direction, goes under Westville Road out to a stormwater pond up behind the condominium units. There's also another feature on the property. It's an existing dry hydrant that utilizes the wetland, which is actually ponded water located at the rear of the lot. There is lighting throughout and security gates at both entrances. So basically, it's a parking lot designed for park and ride. Not a lot of features, no habitable buildings on there or anything like that. So the application is submitted due to an inquiry from Amazon to the Smiths to utilize the property to store empty and partially full axle trailers. There'll be no hazardous materials stored in the trailers. They will come from the rate about 2 an hour, a much lower traffic count than the park and ride had when it was in full use. So again, Amazon's going to be using it, transporting axle trailers in and out of there at a relatively low rate. So to accommodate the modification, obviously from a residential public use to a private use for the tractor trailers, the 2 access points into the parking lot will be one-way in as opposed to how they were set up before, and only one-way out traffic will be allowed within the property. So Amazon advises between 10 and 15 trucks will come and go each day, but that number may increase during November and December due to the holiday season. So with the new design, we have 61 oversized parking spaces measuring 55 by 12 feet. Those will be provided in 2 angled rows with a generous turning areas located in between, as you can see on that second sheet plan. Those spaces will be striped and signs will be installed to direct vehicles in and out of the lot. Left turns will not be permitted and all vehicles will be directed to Route 125. The dry hydrant will remain in place and a reserve strip will be provided, but no further changes are proposed. So it's basically to accommodate this, some signage for the one-way in, one-way out, no left turn, everything to be directed to Route 125 where there's a signalized intersection, and then just an exercise in striping here to organize the trailers. So this application has been submitted as a site plan. It's not an amended site plan, whereas the state wasn't required to submit a site plan with their improvement. So this is the first time this plan has been before the board as a site plan, and not as an amended site plan. There are no additional state permits required for this application. There's several waivers that we've submitted, as you would typically find with a previously developed site, because obviously we're not going to be able to meet all of the requirements of the site plan regulations. So we've submitted those for your review. Prior to meeting with this board, we have met with the fire chief, Chris Knutson. We're willing to provide a 24-hour site manager to coordinate the site use in response to any site emergencies that may come up. We just received comments from the police chief, John Santoro. We haven't had a chance to respond as of yet. Those comments just came in today. We did meet also with the Conservation Commission, whereas there's no alteration to the site other than, as I noted, parking, striping, signs, that sort of thing. They have no objection to the application. We included their letter with our application. We did have this reviewed by your engineer, Steve Keach from Keach Nordstrom. Had just a couple of minor comments about signage and really nothing else. Your road agent, Dan Garlington, has also reviewed it. He asked that we expand on our snow storage note to note that the sidewalks are not to be blocked. He's responsible for maintaining the sidewalks, and we want to make sure that any snow removal from this site or move of the snow doesn't block those sidewalks. And that kind of brings it up to date where we're at. I'll let Pat talk a little bit about the use here and where we're going with the proposal. Thank you.
So my name for the record, Patricia Panciaco. And I wanted, first of all, to thank the board for accepting the application so we could have a freer exchange of the board's concerns. As I understand it, there are concerns about the use, and we're hoping to hear those comments from the board directly now that the door is open, if you will. The use that we're proposing is more limited than a park and ride. It'll have less vehicles, and as I understand it, there is only two of the, I guess they call them tractor trailers, but the front part that pulls the part in the back. There's only two of those designated on the site that will bring tractors in or take them out as may be required during the day. So there's not a steady parade of vehicles going in and out of this site, which is substantially less traffic than you would normally find with the typical park and ride where you have vehicles coming and going all day. Other than that, as I understand it, it's like a satellite location to store these trailers. Some will have retail goods inside, others will not. And as I understand it, it's going to be striped so that it accommodates a larger trailer and loading and offloading right within the limits of the parking lot. And there is, I think, 61 spaces,
61,
Charlie?
correct.
Which is a lot less than the 270 that was there before when it was under the state's park and ride. It technically does not qualify as a park and ride under the terms of the definition in your ordinance for two reasons. I don't think, even though there is a bike rack there, I do not think that there will be bicycles going in and out of there. I don't think Amazon moves freight in that way. And the other piece that's in your zoning ordinance in that definition is that it has an element of public transportation, such as a bus or a railroad. And neither of those are available at this site. Even though the B&M tracks are to the rear, there's no stop. And I don't know if that railroad even carries passengers. And I think that the public transportation aspect is more geared to people. So we do have an application that we've already submitted to the zoning board, because after I looked at the definition, clearly there's little elements in there that we cannot meet. And I think we're scheduled to be there on the 29th, which is next
Yep.
week.
Thursday, correct.
Right. So we'll be there to clear that with the zoning board. And we understand that any review by this board or even conditional approval, depending on what you think of the plan, will definitely be subject to that approval being issued. Because if it isn't, there is no project. So that's pretty much what I have to say. We also have the owner of the property here today. He can answer any specific questions you might have about Amazon.
All right.
Okay.
Well, if that, I'll open up a couple questions and before I open it up to the board. If you could elaborate a little bit, what is it that about your application in terms of use that you're looking to do? Because I mean, it looks like, it's not a park and ride. Okay.
No, it's not.
Right. So, and it's kind of tough that, I know that it's a parking lot and I don't think anything in, our zoning regulations sort of contemplates a non-accessory use type parking lot. So that's, that's sort of the quandary that you're in. So what is it that, other than that aspect of it, what is it is it the storage aspect that you're looking to get relief for, you think?
I can't remember exactly what we asked for. Is it?
This was the,
Yeah, the storage containers are allowed with another use, but it definitely is sort of a satellite storage area for Amazon to store these trailers. And they load them, take it off. And the attraction there is the same as it is with a park and ride. It's convenient to the major routes. It keeps traffic from going down private roads. And I guess you would call it a park and ride to some extent, but it's a park and ride for trailers. It's not.
But are the trailers, you're not contemplating, let's say, the trailers being sort of a storage device on the, in other words, it isn't like it gets loaded with something and it's put in the corner and it's storing something there for a period of time. This is to facilitate the movement of the trailers. They're going to be there. Someone's going to come and connect it, drive off with it, and presumably another one gets dropped off.
I do think that some of them may be stored there for a limited amount of time. In other words, if you get, I'm going to have Cabot come up and make sure I'm saying this right, but if you get 5 trailers full of shoes, you would take one off at a time to use them. And that's my understanding of how it would work. But I'm going to have him come up and explain a little bit more of specifically what will go on there. Limited amount of people, limited amount of traffic, a whole lot less wheels on the ground than you would have with typical pedestrian type vehicles.
If this particular client that was going to be renting, the site wasn't going to be renting the site, I mean, how would truck impact, so, I mean, would you contemplate something being more intense than, let's say, two trips a day or something like that? I mean, let's say the client that you're entertaining now is not going to rent the site or operate out of it. Then, I mean, are we saying that you could contemplate something where, let's say you have 30, 50, 60 trips a day or something like that coming out of?
Well, I think they said 2 trips per hour, right? Was the estimate?
Yeah, 2 trips per hour.
Per day.
right.
Okay,
per day.
sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Richard, can I ask a question?
Yep.
So what what facility, this satellite intermodal facility or whatever we want to refer to it as, which distribution center is it supporting?
Andover,
Andover, okay.
Massachusetts,
And
yes.
so my understanding is trucks would be coming in, exchanging trailers in some capacity and going back out. And the expectation is that that would be ongoing throughout 24 hours. What's the expectation there?
I was told 10 to 15 per day. I don't know exactly when they come and go, but if you were looking at 10 to 15 per day, that's probably about 1 per hour, perhaps,
And
or less,
What are the
actually.
hours?
yeah, I mean, I guess one of my concerns is that we only allowed warehouses, and I know this isn't a warehouse, but we allowed warehouse use in industrial. And in fact, zoning was changed and voted on by the citizens to eliminate warehouse distribution centers. And that was only in industrial. This is commercial. So this is absent the physical facility that's picking goods, but in essence, it's operating in a distribution capacity. So I think that's one of my concerns. I think that would be concerns of the citizens. I'm not sure, when did the park and ride cease operations? I assume it was due to low volume and
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was due to low volume
I haven't
because they
seen it in
only came
operation
out
in
in the
20
morning and they
years
came back at the
since I've been
noontime.
here.
It was only 2 trips. That's it. And it was
The
closed.
industrial zone, no, this is commercial.
yeah,
That could be commercial.
Yep,
yeah, I can't really remember either, but
it was 2 trips.
I mean, even so, that was vehicles, it was passenger vehicles, and the idea was to eliminate traffic on the roads, not to necessarily increase it through town.
But it wasn't much, really wasn't.
But I think that that's one of my questions or concerns, and I put that to the board, is that considering the zoning changes to eliminate distribution uses or functions in the town, this is a de facto distribution operation.
Well, I just to that point, I just want to put it out there that in terms, just so that we're not crossing roles here. All right, and if we're going to talk about what's before us here is the site plan considerations.
Right.
Okay. And the questions of whether or not they're going to have relief from zoning considerations is a ZBA function. All right, and so that's what's pending in front of the ZBA on the 29th, right? Just parenthetically, I mean, I do kind of sympathize that, I mean, we don't have scenarios where you have, let's say, a standalone parking lot where somebody now has the property and it's in C1. In some sense, you're going to have to look for some sort of relief or ZBA relief, because I don't think there's anything apart from an intermodal type use that's contemplated in zoning.
True.
So, in terms of what happens on the 29th, that's sort of the ZBA's purview. But in terms of site plan applicability, that's what we're discussing tonight. So, anyone else?
That is absolutely the case, Mr. Chairman. What we're here tonight is to say, put the use aside, are the improvements shown on this new site plan that was prepared, because there was no site plan, and this is an existing site within existing improvements, whether or not what's being proposed in light of that proposed use is acceptable as far as the physical improvements to the site.
Well, let me just ask about, I know you didn't respond, you didn't have time to respond to the police chief's inquiries for what, but in terms of, security on site, right? I mean, I know and I'm just thinking about other Amazon type facilities that have, let's say, various vehicles that are staged and things like that. Specifically, I'm thinking like in around the Shriner Center in Wilmington, I think. But that's a fence is enclosing that, or providing some sort of physical security for, protecting, let's say, the vehicles, goods that might be on site and things like that. Is that something that you're adverse to if that came back from the police chief saying that, we should have some sort of, demarcation, keeping the public from wandering on and things like that.
Right now, it's, as you can see, it's just gated at both the entrances. So that's the only thing that would prohibit somebody from coming in there with a vehicle.
Okay.
Okay, but as you said, there's always the potential for a pedestrian to come wandering into the site. And so I would assume that and Cabot, clarify, security cameras are probably going to be something that'll be present on the site. And we did meet with the fire chief, and we discussed, security measures. And some of it I obviously can't make public because, this is something that the fire chief wants to work with the 24-hour site manager in arrangement of where they park trailers, what trailers are going to be parked, how they're going to be numbered, and so that he knows how to respond to emergencies on the site. That's something they want to work out together. And like I said, it's not something I want to make.
So that involves knowing what's potentially stored in the
Yes,
trailer and such
exactly.
like that.
So again, no hazardous materials, maybe some, household goods, things like that. Certainly nothing that's caustic, petroleum-based, anything like that. Typical Amazon deliveries that you would expect to anyone, any residential home kind of thing.
Hours of operation, well, go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, I was going to go with that too. When you say that it's nothing like the bus, the park and ride, no, it isn't, because there was only 2 times of the day. First, when they got there, and there were very few cars, because unfortunately it wasn't used that much. And then at night, when they come back and they do that, there was no more than 1 trip. That was what it was at the end. 1 trip out and 1 trip back. And there were very few cars that were parked in there. And yes, it was used. Bicycles did go through there. There was, people obviously could go in and out pretty freely too. But the hours was once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And that was it. There was no traffic. There was no anything 24 hours. There was never anything late at night, because that is a very busy road that goes, out to Westville Road. We just got sidewalks put in, so a lot of people are walking that way too. So it's just the traffic is just a lot more. And it is on C1. And we just went through a whole warehouse of transportation is what it was. And that's what the rule came from, that we didn't need any more of distribution. And this is, to me, seems very much like it again. And I just, it's up to the planning, it's up to the ZBA now is what we're going to have to count on. So that's my feeling on it.
When it was fully functioning, there was bus service there too, so there was buses coming in and out of the site. And again, there was
That was a long,
270
long time ago.
spaces here as opposed to the 61 that we're proposing. And the vehicles coming in and out of this site is just going to be a couple of tractor trailers. Before it was
How late?
traffic. We're looking for 24-hour, 7 days a week.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's never been used 24 hours.
Do you want to say something first? Or?
I guess I have had a couple questions about that. Not having had a site plan approval before, there was obviously no restrictions on when cars came and went as far as hours or how many that went in there. I mean, you've got 270 spaces on the site that were available, and
They
it
were
could have
never
been that much traffic back then, but apparently there wasn't enough demand. But because it was owned by the state and the fact that there was no site plan, there was probably no restrictions on use there. To that point, though, I actually, with Mr. Smith, we did engage in a conference call with the representatives of Amazon before we filled out the variance application. They took a couple days, though, to get back to us. I thought we'd hear from them sooner, and that was specifically what I asked them was, how many trucks are going in and out of there every day? They came back to us with that specific number, 10, 12, maybe 14 in a day, which is less than 1 per hour. And I would venture a guess they would probably be during the day, but you never know. They may have one at night. But there are other trucks, and I believe Charlie can tell you more about those. In the area, there's tractor trailers going in and out of other uses that are on this road in the same zoning district. So
Yeah, I don't know if those, we don't have
No.
24-hour operations.
I don't
on
know
that
if they're
road.
24 hours,
No,
but they do
none.
go in and out of the road. I mean, isn't there a tire
Right,
warehouse
there's
or
the tire
something?
warehouse, there's
Yeah, it's right next door.
Okay.
Freedom Tire.
auto
It's
body
it's a
shops
shop.
and several
Okay.
other.
But they all close at like, what,
No,
6
right,
o'clock?
and they don't
Okay.
have traffic going in and out. It's
And auto-
in the morning, out at
All right,
night.
Darrell, you had something you want to ask?
I won't call them concerns at this point because we're not to that point, but it is a residential situation across the street. And it may be very difficult if tractors are going in, especially fair-sized tractors with a
Size.
diesel, and peace and quiet for the people that live over there and try to sleep at night. So that's one thing that I'm concerned with, and I'm going to call that a concern. The other thing is the acreage looks like it's 3.8. Was the snow capacity, snow storage, figured on that 3.8 for what size storm? And if it exceeds the snow storage you have, are you planning on trucking it off, or what's
Too
Yeah,
small
so
spaces.
it's about 2 acres of actual pavement there, okay? And so we've designated snow storage areas on site. They're pretty generous areas. I would imagine if you have a major snow event, and these quickly become overtop, then there is a note on the plan that they're going to have to remove the snow from the site. Okay, they can't push it over the embankment down to the wetland. That's not allowed. They have to remove it from the site.
And the last question I have is water and oil separators for the catch basins, are they there already, or is it just strictly a line out to the wetlands?
There are catch basins and that lead to drain manholes and to redirect the pipe to send it to
But are
cross
they
the
water and
street.
oil separating?
But that I don't honestly know. I'll have to take a look at the design plans from the state. I would imagine that they would have accommodated for that, especially where this is going to be a parking lot for 270 spaces. I would assume that it's there, but I don't know for sure,
It
and I
may
will
very
find
well
out.
be. Just asking a question.
Good question.
Charlie, one thing I wanted to ask was the traffic you had mentioned coming one way, out the other,
Yes.
and then no left turn. You said that the trucks would be coming from North Andover primarily, and when they enter, say they're coming to pick up a trailer,
Which road
when
are they
they're
gonna
entering the
use?
site, would they be traveling 125, or is there a chance that they could be using Main Street,
Main Street.
taking a left on the west?
Well, I think that fortunately, it's one company that's going to be accessing the site. And I think having the property manager, a 24-hour property manager here, to make sure that any other use other than the accessing from 125 is prohibited for the site.
Access
wanna make
in,
sure-
access out to 125? No-
125
Main
Not
Street
on Main
traffic?
Street.
The lighted intersection into Westville Road and then back out to the lighted intersection.
I think, Tom, too, what lends to that is the exit is almost 45 out, going in the direction of take a tractor trailer across Westville Road, be it tight.
Yeah, I was
It's a
thinking more
difficult
coming
turn.
in, yeah, I agree, but figured I'd ask just for
Yeah,
clarification.
no, that's a good question.
So there must have been a considerable anticipated volume of traffic when the state designed this, because there wasn't a light at the intersection. And that was part of this project. When they created this park and ride, they also brought the signalized intersection in at that time as well.
To expound on what Darrell was saying, right? So vehicles, I think the expectation I would anticipate that the park and ride use was defined in probably a verbal manner. You know, these are the days, these are the trips we anticipate. Probably very limited on weekends, if anything. Whereas this does propose tractor trailers, which is much different than vehicles, and then the backing up, the noise like Daryl talked about. So
Yeah.
I happen to work for a distribution organization, and I know what it entails, and it's very busy at night. Distribution, a lot of the behind-the-scenes distribution operations occur at night so that the deliveries and whatnot can be made during the day. And typically, it doesn't just stop during the day. I'm just saying that it's pretty intensive at night. So I'd anticipate that there would be backing up and large tractor trailers making noise, potentially throughout the evening and through the night.
Again, is it a deal breaker to not have 24-hour operations? I mean, if we were to say that, I mean, Plastow has a noise ordinance, right? It's 7 o'clock,
7 to 7.
7 to
7 to 7.
Or 7 to
So, I mean, if we, if operations were to not happen, between the hours of 7 and 7, I mean, would that be something that your client would be amenable to? Or is that something that's a complete, like, no-go?
Where the volume is so low, and they only have the ability to move so many pieces at a time, to limit them to certain hours of the day, I don't know if it's that easy. So that would be
Just for the record, and for Charlie, if we can't pick you, you're not going to be picked up on the mics here unless you come up and speak into a mic.
Could he actually maybe,
Yeah,
Mr.
you're
Chairman,
welcome
could he
to
occupy one of the
Take
chairs
one of
here?
those seats.
Right.
Right here if you'd like.
And just state your name. State your name and your address.
Pull the mic to you.
Then you can speak into it. It doesn't amplify it, just captures
Cabot
what you're
Smith.
saying.
I just think I know how they operate, and they have only a few tractors to move these units. So that's why the volume is so low. And they're dealing with, overages at the Andover site, and they'll move a trailer,
I mean,
and it could stay there, for quite a while. So is it a deal breaker? I just think it makes it more difficult and would move the traffic frequency for them. I'm not sure if it would work or not.
I think what we could do, Mr. Chairman, is we could make the inquiry, and I've had situations on other sites where there is another way to deal with the noise, the beeping noise that you mentioned. We can certainly ask that question where there's only the two, I don't know what you call those things on the front, but with only two of them, I think there might be a way to either turn them down or turn them off.
Well, I guess my concern is that I understand with this particular
DOT,
fact
right?
profile that you have, this particular client that you're entertaining, you have this particular volume to, 2 every hour or something like that, up to 15. But conceptually, you could have something, let's say Amazon decided that was great, but business is fantastic and we're going to up that, double that, let's say. I mean, that could conceivably be the case, right? We could go from 15 to 30,
Well, once the lot's full, they can't really do any more, so. I'm not sure that's the intent, so.
yeah.
We can ask.
But I guess that's what I'm
It's not
saying,
like
is just
they're
that,
not delivering product to the site and unloading, loading. These are just, we have these units.
absent some control on the site, I mean, once operations are happening, if it changes, right? I mean, we don't build that into a site plan saying that, two an hour is what we're doing, right?
Yeah, we can build
We
that.
can specify times.
Is the concern the residential across the street, or is the concern just general?
Well, I'm
Street.
thinking the
It's
abutters.
C1.
I mean, we do have a letter from an abutter that we should
Right.
probably read in, or if there are abutters at that time that want to come up and speak to the issue. And I'm just thinking that, a particular client, you could have a different client like a year from now, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you rent it out to someone else, and the fact profile could be different. All right, so what we decide here today, if there are no controls on the time, then, it's, we're going to have to live with whatever happens after that.
Okay.
Richard, the one thing, I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that the backup noises are a DOT safety requirement. So I think that there isn't, because I've dealt with customers that had noise issues, and I don't think there's any way around the beeping, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't think you can turn those off. And then they do specify 10 to 15 a day. To Richard's point, we don't know if that could increase. We know seasonally, it could be 40 a day during the holidays.
Right.
So, and is that 10 to 15 clustered around nighttime hours, right? Residents want to get some rest, and all of a sudden the beeping is happening, and suddenly it's 8 an hour, 10 an hour, through midnight, 2 in the morning. So just some input on that.
I don't know if you can perhaps answer this, Kevin. Is the beeping a directional sound? Is it directed towards the back of the tractor trailer? So perhaps to maybe hopefully alleviate some of that issue is maybe some of the, we could use just after a certain hour, only be able to back into the spaces on the westerly side of the parking lot, which back up against the wetland, and not the ones that would direct it across the street towards the residential units. I mean, that would help knock down the sound. If it's a directional sound, it would help alleviate
loud.
some of that.
They're loud no matter what. It's
Right.
And I think it would be so complicated at that point, with a whole lot of tractors that you'd say, okay, you need this tractor, but it's backed into Westville Road. Sorry, you can't take it.
A thought.
Good thought. I mean, it's just,
I think we need to inquire into the process they implement within the corners of the,
Another question?
Yeah, do you know how many trailers are actually going to be on this piece of land? How many trailers there are going to be stored?
I think the maximum was 61, right, Charlie?
Correct.
61
Maximum
are going to be there?
That's the
Maximum.
maximum number.
Okay.
allow for public input and as
Well,
well as
I
the
think
letter.
so. If anyone else have any other questions, I think, from my perspective, I think, I understand the fact profile with respect to the client you're talking about, but I'm thinking about, if you had a different client and there weren't any types of operational time controls, that you could have something that would be much more intense. And I think that's my concern. Well, that's what I'm contemplating. But is there anyone from the public that would like to? Okay, maybe we can. Oh, they're going to use that mic, I guess, or we can move one mic over and put it on the table.
Yeah, they can have this.
Probably, just so there's no confusion. Then when you come up to the mic, just your name, your address.
I'll write it down.
My name's Gary Denson. I'm the abutter at 56 Westville Road. Blastow Pine Grove Realty.
You wrote the letter. Would
I
you like
wrote
to
the
read the
letter
letter,
to
or
the
would you
board.
like the letter read into the
No,
record?
I'd like the letter read into the.
Do you want to read it, or would you like
No,
me to
go
read
ahead.
it? Okay. All right. Address the Blastow Planning Board. Dear Planning Board Chair Richard Anthony and fellow board members, the applicant's engineer and attorney are stating the use of the parking trailers is an allowable use. The use is being turned into a truck terminal. Please show me where the zoning allows for this use. The applicant is proposing 61 parking spaces, only moving 1 or 2 a day. The parking lot is being used by the applicant for the last few months without planning board approval or any approval of permits. The applicant clearly does not care about the town regulations and does whatever they want. So how can we believe the application of only 1 or 2 trailer moves a day? This lot has the potential, based on the 61 spaces, of moving 61 trailers in a very short amount of time. The potential could be hundreds of trailer moves in 24 hours. Just because the application reads low frequency today, 6 months from now, this could turn into a lot of trucking traffic on Westville Road. If this does happen, what about the safety and welfare of the residents on Westville Road? Has a traffic study been done based on the 61 spaces and how many trips a day the potential use could be and the impact on Westville Road? This is clearly a trucking terminal and not a permitted use. Has anyone considered a noise from backup beepers? We all heard them. The sound does not stop at the property line or just to the abutters' properties. Do the residents beyond the abutters want to listen to this 24/7? This is clearly not in the correct zone. The engineer is correct on the stormwater management does flows under the parking lot of Woodland Terrace and exits into the wetland pond on my property. The wetland pond, to my knowledge, has never been maintained by the state. Does the pond still function in the manner it was designed? With all the trucking in this terminal, what happens if there is a diesel spill? Who will be responsible for cleanup of my property? Respectfully, Gary Denson, Plastow Pine Grove Realty LLC, 56 Westville Road, number 4. Do you have any additional comment?
No, not really, but as far as the drainage goes, I know nobody has maintained it for all these years ever since that was built, because the only way to get to that drainage is through my property. And nobody has ever contacted me from the state or anybody else to do anything down there. And that drainage goes through the wetlands into Little River. So I don't know if the shoreline protection has anything to do with the drainage that can end up in Little River. So my biggest concern with the wetlands there, that is my property. And, you know, this is a trucking terminal they're talking about. And the potential, I mean, I understand what they're saying and what they're trying to do, but how can you believe 1 or 2 trips a day? 5 years from now, 1 or 2 trips could turn into 200 trips. Then what do we do? And if there's an oil spill, diesel trucks leak oil. I own diesel trucks. They leak oil. They leak diesel fuel. And they go into the storm drains. Then what happens? So who's going to clean up my property? Am I going to be responsible?
All right, just a couple points. You know, the question of whether or not it's zoned for that or not is separate from what we're doing here. The 29th of August
I know.
is scheduled for the ZBA. All right. And, you know, but it sounds like, you know, the points that you're talking about, you know, been kind of amplified,
Yeah.
you know, by the members of the board here, you know, hours of operation. The use today might necessarily not be the use later. And so we might be in a situation where what we said to an hour might be okay now, but if it's more intense and if it's more after hours, then that might be problematic. And then I guess that's to Darrell's point, I think the question of the drainage, you know, should be inspected at least at a minimum, I would think,
Yeah.
to see if it's up
But they have
to
said that They
speed.
would look to see if.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Water
so
separation.
one of the things I'll take a look at that and see if that was incorporated. I can't imagine it wasn't incorporated into the state's design, but perhaps a field visit with Mr. Denson's approval or permission by our drainage engineer, and perhaps we could ask your site inspector from Keach Nordstrom to visit the site, take a look at it, and offer up their recommendations if it does need to be maintained.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Again, just please state your name into the microphone and your address, please.
Name's Rocco Piccarelli, and I'm the owner of property at 52 Westville Road. That drainage also cuts through part of my property for the drainage. As this gentleman said earlier, it's essential for a water oil separator. Every one of those trucks going in there is going to have a potential for leakage, and they're all carrying an excess of 100 gallons of diesel fuel. not to mention the oils, rear end fluids, and everything else. We addressed a lot, but there's a lot of things with that in that part of that Westville Road has abundance of apartments and rentals, as you know. That sidewalk is on that side of the street, and it's got an impact. Now, they'd only be able to exit out to 125 with the tractor trailer because we're putting in an island at this end of Westville Drive. So that's a problem. The other thing is DOT. They can't stop their backup alarms and stuff. That's a DOT violation. They can't play with that. Are we subject to noise pollution? At what hours are they coming in and out of here? And as they said, of course they're going to say it's only 1 or 2 trips a day. That's never going to happen. It's not cost effective. I mean, let's be realistic here. It's going to invite vandalism. Kids tagging, tractors, trailers are the best thing to tag on. They all do it. I don't want to see vandalism coming there. And, as the gentleman previously said, they've been utilizing that property right along. What are the hours of operation, and who's going to police this to make sure they stay to what they say to us? Today's today, tomorrow's tomorrow. What's going to keep them in line? And this is a safety hazard for the neighbors and myself, and it does impact the whole neighborhood. So, and these oil water separators are huge. Every little gas station in the world has them. Why wouldn't you do that here? So, I don't know if my son had anything. He's the owner also. Anything more to add to that, Rock?
That's the only other noise complaint would be is all those tractor trailers.
If you could, excuse me.
Oh, air brakes. Oh, and that was one other thing I wanted to bring up. What happens when these trailer trucks break down? Are they going to do on-site repairs? Or are they going to tow them out of there?
Out there.
Right.
How does that get addressed? In what time can they do this? These people in these apartments and myself, we all got to go to work. Do we have the right to have a good night without noise pollution and everything else because they want to make money? Is that our agenda? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Your phone.
Is there anyone else that would like to add to public comment? No. I guess my takeaway that I would like to know is if it's going to be, if there were a limitation on the hours of operation, it wasn't 24 hours. I think that's, we don't have 24-hour operations on that road. Businesses don't operate in that. There is a noise ordinance after 7 o'clock in Plastow.
Okay.
So I think, in terms of what business is happening now that we're talking about, to that point, that doesn't bind what future business could happen and all the intensity that comes with that and such. And so I just see if there's any type of understanding that they can be built into that in terms of like a site plan control of hours of operation or something like that.
First thing, I wanted to correct one thing. I don't think we've ever said 1 to 2 per day. We've been saying 10 to 14 per day.
I probably
Okay,
messed that up
so I
for
just
you
want to make
publicly.
sure of that.
I think that it kind of expounds on.
Oh, okay.
They were saying 1 to 2 per day. Their concerns would be multi times greater because it's 1 to 2 per hour.
Right.
Original estimate, but again, holiday season.
Well,
That's,
No, that's, I probably misspoke on that. It's, 1 to 2 an hour. Okay, correct?
It's a big difference.
I think we can
Yeah.
ask the questions. I don't know if that would work, but we should ask
Well,
the
if
questions.
it could, I think it's if it did work,
Yep.
if we had something, where you're not doing all night,
Right.
and potentially being more intensive during holidays or more intensive if it's a different client, then I think that's sort of a reasonable,
Yep.
Inquiry.
Yes,
Uh,
it is.
So
It could be a condition of approval. We could come up
I think
with
that's where I'm
those
going with it.
limitations.
At the ZBA
Absolutely.
first.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think we need to ask the questions first to see if it would be workable for this prospective client. And to answer some of the other questions the board has asked, which are all valid questions. So gather up
So,
those answers.
so you have a meeting with the ZBA on the 29th.
Correct.
So is this something then that, does it make sense to sort of continue it to the next meeting, which I think is
Yes.
shortly after the ZBA meets? And so then we would have answers to these questions and then we could move forward, with,
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
all right.
Absolutely.
Richard, exactly. I think with that pending, as well as outstanding questions by our police chief, as well as questions by the board and the public regarding drainage. And I thank you, Mrs. Zilch, for recommending some review of that. I think that
Yeah.
would.
Yes.
So, just to amplify the abutter, the question of vandalism and stuff like that. I mean, that does happen. People do tag stuff and people do wander onto sites and things like that. So, I know that you said something about there being some sort of camera and stuff like that, but, perhaps maybe just sort of a discussion then is a more robust
It's disturbing.
security of the site. Is that warranted or not? So,
Right.
all right. So,
Okay.
yes.
One question, since I'm an alternate. not
The alternates are
participating.
allowed to ask questions. You just can't vote.
I'm just concerned about how you know there's no hazardous materials in these,
Exactly.
you know?
You gotta check every one of
I
them.
mean, Amazon ships batteries,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
I mean,
Everything.
I'm concerned that, and this is a concern, is that without some fundamental way to measure, capture, and identify what's in those trailers, I think it's very difficult to give the assurance that there's nothing hazardous in there. And so that's, if that's, if the board's okay, that would be one thing I would like to see the applicant elaborate on.
I would,
You can't guarantee, I understand
No,
that,
no.
but some maybe broader explanation as to what
the-
process you have
Yeah,
to
I
kind
think-
of
I think-
isolate and identify.
I think there might have been a question with the fire chief, and if it's
Yeah,
just
what
something that,
products?
and if it's just something that the fire chief would speak to,
Mhm.
if it's maybe you already did, I don't know, but that's, it's a legitimate question. If something's on fire, I suppose you want to know what's in it before you try to put it out.
And my concern is just measurement, okay? If you're going to say we don't have it, there's got to be some measurement tool to figure out, okay, how do we say that?
Inspect it.
And how do we prove that, if we ever had to?
Right.
I think when you were referring to hazardous, Charlie, you're probably thinking of the federal list of all those awful chemicals that we see people used to pour into the ground and can't pour in the ground anymore, like petroleum-based products. I think that was more generally what Charlie was
Absolutely.
referring to. As to the example of batteries, though, I'm not sure that would be a good example because they carry those in retail stores. They're inside the building here, they're inside the truck, and they're packaged and sealed and whatnot. So we can look into the levels of protection they get, if you will, and try to get you more information. But I agree with you. We're not going to be able to guarantee anything, and too much of any one thing can be hazardous.
No, but batteries, you're not shipping in the mail, you're not,
Well, they do.
You're not storing in planes. I mean, there's I use that as just one minor
Right.
example. And I will tell you, as someone who is engaged in the use of hazardous materials, that list is as broad.
It
and
is.
It covers many, many things, including common household chemicals.
That's right. And that's, you're right.
That's what I
There's no
address.
way we're going to be able to address all of it. Okay, but we'll definitely ask the question.
All right. So we'll continue this, hearing to the next, what's the date on that?
25th?
I don't think we voted.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
25th.
What was the date?
it's August, is it August 25th? Is our next, no,
Next will be
September.
September is our hearing,
All right.
another hearing.
Yeah, so,
It would be the September 18th.
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 Yep.
all right, so continuous hearing to September 18th.
Okay, and we'll try to get you answers to all those questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that time frame? Approximately 30 days? Is that good
Yes.
for you?
I am.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very
You
much
have
for
to go to
taking the
ZBA
time.
first.
Give us the
Thank you for
feedback.
consideration. Appreciate it.
And I guess the abutters go to the, hearing is when for the ZBA now? Make sure you have the date,
August 29th.
August 29th.
Okay.
Actually going to say lithium batteries. I was actually going to say lithium batteries. Too.
All right, next on the agenda.
Period.
I don't know if they still do, but they.
Yep. Next on the agenda, PB, all right. 24-10, the completeness of an application from Planet Fitness, LLC, Brian Dumont, for an amended site plan that proposes a change of use from a retail to a gym club. The property is located at 58 Plastow Road, tax map 26, lot 1, in the C1 zoning district. The property of owner of record is the IREIT Plastow Pawtucket LLC. If the application is found to be complete, the planning board may immediately conduct the public hearing. All right.
Where was theirs? So much of this one.
All right, you want
That was this one.
to, application for acceptance. I move to accept the application from Planet Fitness Asset Company LLC to add a retail/gym use with updated parking and septic calculations at 58 Plastow Road, tax map 26, lot 1, and as noted in the legal notice PB 24-10 as complete. Do I have a second?
Second.
Give that to Tom. Any discussion? Not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. Is it, wait,
Well, just for clarification purposes,
he's voting, he's the alternate.
vote, Darrell?
I did.
I didn't
did.
hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I did. In the affirmative.
I'll for procedural stuff.
All right,
When you get old, you don't talk loud.
I'm just, who's old? Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Laura Gandia, and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Divine, Milmet, and Branch in Manchester. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Planet Fitness. I'm here with Kara Pagan, Senior Director of New Club Openings for Planet Fitness, and Richard Whitehouse, our engineer from VHB. We are here tonight to present you a site plan amendment for a change of use for a gym club facility at 58 Plastow Road, which is part of the Pawtucket Shopping Center. The property contains a condominium association consisting of several buildings and is approximately 55 acres, zoned C1, Aquifer Protection and Access Management Overlay. The buildings on the property are part of a 1992 condominium. The site provides limited common area and is currently served by private water and on-site septic. The site is encumbered with wetlands on the southerly portion of the lot to include portions of Little River. The property enjoys a shared parking arrangement with other tenants in the condominium. Some of those tenants are Walmart, Five Below, Home Depot, Staples, and Santander Bank. Planet Fitness seeks to occupy the former Bed Bath & Beyond space as a gym fitness center utilizing 24,394 square feet of space. This use is an allowed use in the district. However, per the town's zoning regulations, the town has determined that this use is a more intense use, thereby triggering the necessity of a site plan review. Planet Fitness is proposing minor changes to the exterior of the building, which includes some building upgrades and branding as well as signage. We provided parking and septic calculations. Sufficient parking exists on the site. However, some of the striping is faded and needs to be redone. The property is serviced by multiple on-site septic systems. The overall system has been determined by both your third-party review engineer and Planet Fitness engineer team, VHB, that the system is adequate to handle the change of use. Planet Fitness is seeking one waiver request to the site plan regulations to not provide a topography contour on the plan, as the applicant is not proposing any earthwork and it's simply a change of use. Planet Fitness believes that it meets both provisions for a waiver as outlined in the site plan regulations. Strict conformity would pose an unnecessary hardship on the applicant, and the granting of the waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance, and specific circumstances relative to the site plan exist. Again, the site plan amendment is for a change of use. That is an allowed use in this district, and no alteration of existing topography is being proposed. We believe that all other requirements are met, and Planet Fitness respectfully request that the planning board grant its waiver and grant approval of its application for a site plan amendment for a change of use. Planet Fitness is excited to relocate its existing location and remain a member of the Plastow community. Our team is here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
What are the hours?
The hours.
I mean, I should know, but look at me. I never-
Yep, they are on the plan, and Kara will correct me if I'm wrong. I have 24/7 Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday.
Now, those hours are Planet Fitness, where it's currently operating. Those are the same hours.
I believe so, but Kara, can you confirm?
State your name, please.
Kara Pagan. Yes, we'll keep the same hours. We're currently 24, we call it 24/5. So we're 24 hours during the week, and then it's limited hours on the weekends where we close overnights.
That's when I would have worked out.
Well, I mean, it's that injury right there. Right, so the hours of operation in essence are the same. Nothing's changed, from that. Okay. I think, was there a note here from the engineer that talked about, we're waiting to see if the septic is adequate to accommodate?
There was, when we first started working with Dee, and she's wonderful, by the way, she referred it to Keach Nordstrom, and Keach Nordstrom came back with a letter that's saying that, based on his exact words were, he said, as described in a project narrative dated July 31st, 2024, we understand Unit 1B is presently served by an individual sewage disposal system having an approved capacity of 4,400 gallons per day. We further understand this ISDS serves both 32,546 square feet of gross floor area, either presently occupied or available for occupancy by all retailer users, as well as the 24,309 square feet of floor area, and that based on our methodology and the methodology that Keach Nordstrom reused, that there was no issue with the septic capacity.
So Planet Fitness will, be having showers and things like that in the locker rooms like they have at the current facility and such.
Correct.
Okay.
That was really the only question I had as well. And, Steve Keach is going to know a lot better about septic flow and capacity than I'll hopefully ever will. So understanding that they're adding showers and that right now those retail uses are very low use on the septic system, right? They're bathrooms for customers and they're probably, just limited use, but between the showers and the customers using the restrooms, probably a lot more intensive.
Well, they had restrooms.
I just want to feel comfortable that, it's been reviewed and understood that the capacity's there and
Well, I can speak to that because
we
built the
you said-
plaza, okay, and it was initially that whole thing was a supermarket, high volume, high water usage, and the septic system was more than adequate for that kind of usage. Now, of course, it's been replaced, but in kind, what was there. So, as a result, the amount of usage that would happen in the Office Depot, or whatever it is, Staples, is negligible. And they'd be putting in what they have that would certainly not come close to what the usage would be in a full-blown supermarket.
Thank you.
Yeah, Purity Supreme used to be up there.
Yeah, that was Purity Supreme. That was the name. Yep.
Does the landowner have any sort of security there on a regular basis? I don't think I've ever seen anybody patrolling there,
It's
but
supposed to be our police.
At the current site?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any security at the current
I'm not
site.
a,
Security cameras
Yeah.
on site.
On that mall.
And, and Planet Fitness, we install our own. So regardless of what any landlord provides, we have our own interior and exterior security camera system.
We're worried about Walmart than
Gee.
the people who are going to the gym.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
Oh, yeah. In this building, I didn't know in the plan here, there is a little room could be used like an office, I guess, was kind of attached to it. Are you going to be in that too?
I think,
Was that little space that's right next to it?
Do you have the schematic? Do you have the layout? I have it on my phone.
I have it
What
in my thing.
what are you talking about?
You remember that little area that we
There's
were
a
going to have
space
imaging
between
in?
when it was Bed Bath and Beyond
they
and
had a little room.
Staples.
Okay.
Are you just taking over the Bed Bath and Beyond footprint
Or are you
that's already
taking the other
there,
one too?
or-
So we are taking the 24,000 square feet from Bed Bath & Beyond. We're using 22,000 of it. So our gym space is going to consist of 22,000 square feet.
Okay. So then do you get to use that other space too?
I don't believe so. Let me pull up
Oh,
the schematic. I have
Alright.
it on my phone.
I thought maybe you might use that as like an office or,
Are you talking about the space that was once a
supposed to be for
discussion
imaging.
us
Yes,
about another, okay.
right, because that's not very big and it doesn't,
Well, it might
what's
be
that going to go for
They're
now
showing
by
On
itself?
this plan that they're taking.
I think I've never noticed that.
That's what I was hoping that they were,
There's a door
because
there.
then that's good use, using it all.
Okay.
This plan uses
Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure they,
Yeah. So sometimes there's space in our, that we can't use to members, but we can use ourselves. So
yes,
whether we
right,
use as storage or
Right,
like you
so-
said,
Okay.
office space.
that's
or-
what I was hoping
Let
that
me,
that was
which I
included.
have the schematic in front of me, which, in between us and which store, which side?
That
Staples.
that would be
Oh,
Staples.
so on this side.
Yeah, it would be on the other side, Staples. I think it's on that side. Was the actual, and I think there's a door, isn't there? a
You're gonna
door
have the
there?
tanning,
There is a door.
Adjacent. So it looks like we have a very large utility room here. So I'm not sure. It could
Probably
be some
it.
shared utilities as well. So, but we do have a very large utility
That's
room.
not the space she's talking about.
It's
though.
the other side.
It's not?
No, that was on utility, the utility area is a separate area in that building. So that may, it looks like on this drawing that they're taking the whole thing. but-
That's what I was, that's why I questioned it,
but
because I
if-
couldn't tell by
there's a
this.
chance they're not. I
Yeah.
can't. On
Yeah.
this field, I can't tell.
Yeah. So again, so we have, I can tell you the exact numbers. So we have, total square feet of the space is 24,394, Again, for member use, we're using 22,366. So we are leasing the whole space. So Planet Fitness will have ownership of the entire
We'll
space.
have the ownership of it.
All right,
That's
so
what I
unit
wanted.
1-B is going to be owned by you, but not being used for the gym.
Yeah, so we're having,
Right.
yeah.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
On the exterior of the
No.
footprint,
No,
just
So
on
they
the,
just use
maybe on the
it whatever they
interior.
want.
Yes.
One at a time,
Yep.
please.
It's not a gym, but they can use it what they want to do. with it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Oh, good.
Tanning, you'll have tanning there?
yes.
That's something that interests you?
No, only if I'm at the real beach. Yeah.
All right, that's where I go. I like the real beach.
Anyone else have any questions from the board? All right, so we're looking for a waiver for the site plan.
Which one was it now?
Is this one for the?
You mean to add a retail gym use with updated parking? Is that the one?
No?
Want to read the waiver?
Yes. Which one are we looking at, though? This is one for the relief from the contour, the topography, correct?
Well, the first one I see is the application for, to move it, add a retail gym use with updating parking. Wasn't that the first one?
That was to accept it as complete.
It's a waiver request from Article 1, Section 230-14.1.z contours.
Yeah, that's,
Waive site plan review regulations.
Right. Is that the one
right,
I
because
got?
we're not doing anything that's in the way of.
We're not doing any earthwork, nothing.
This is just because it's a more intense use.
Exactly.
That's why you're here
If
for
it was
change of
another
use.
Staples, we
Right.
probably wouldn't be here in front of you. But because it's a gym facility, town staff has determined that that triggers us to be here tonight.
All right, so I move to grant the request to waive site plan review regulations, Chapter 230, Article 1, 230-14.1.z for the reasons stated in the applicant's request.
Second.
Favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, 500. All right.
Okay, what about this other one?
Now, are we doing this, what's that?
What's this one? You have to do that one? That's on the,
That's for completeness.
The draft motion for approval, is that what you're asking, Richard?
Yeah, but,
Yeah, I mean, does anybody have any outstanding questions or?
no, I don't have any.
Nope.
If anyone doesn't, no one has any. But is there a condition that we're saying that we're waiting for information coming back for the septic? You know, or no? All right, well,
Help us keep you.
all right, that's
Yeah.
right.
now
So-
Keach is, yeah.
He's already
right,
given his opinion.
Right.
All right, so draft motion. I move to approve the application for Planet Fitness Asset Company LLC to add a retail gym use with updated parking and septic calculations at 58 Plastow Road, tax map 26, lot 1, and as noted in the legal notice, PB 24-10 with the following conditions. All final recording documents will have appropriate professional stamps. Granted waiver information be added to the final recordings, plan citing the regulations section and date waived. All recording documents will be submitted to the planning department within 45 days of the date of this decision. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. All right. I need to read this into the record here. So, impact fees. There are no new buildings proposed as part of this application. Therefore, there will not be any impact fees assessed. L-chip. This is an amended site plan. Therefore, there should not be any L-chip associated with the recording of the plan. However, if there are, the applicant agrees to provide those fees for recording. Bonding and pre-construction. There are no changes to the site proposed. Therefore, there is no need for bonding or pre-construction meeting. The applicant will be responsible for obtaining proper building and occupancy permits. All right. That's it.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
When are you guys
Welcome.
anticipating being open?
It will be at the end of the year. Mhm. So, and it will be a very small lead time. So when this new site is all ready to go, we close our old site for about a week to get all of our new equipment in and everything, and then we reopen.
Oh,
So
great.
we're hoping for December.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want it for December because you know January 1st, everybody's going to make these resolutions.
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Are you guys a member of the what's the
Southern New
Commerce.
Hampshire Chamber
Or
of
the-
Commerce?
Northern New Hampshire Chamber of Commerce?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No, but we.
They would
could-
do like a grand opening or something for you.
Yeah,
or
that-
work with you on
They
that.
do.
That would be great. Yeah, we plan pretty good grand openings for all of our new clubs and
good.
these remodels. And yeah, we love to get other businesses in the community to come down and highlight their business. So I'll join the Chamber of Commerce beforehand.
Well, if nothing else, your open house have open bar.
Not sure that's part of our brand,
a
but I'll
smoothie bar.
suggest it.
Hey, you guys have
Health
pizza
drinks.
there. I don't know if you still do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They do. There were certain nights that there was pizza there. I always thought it was funny.
That's sports pizza, Tom.
It's- yeah.
Not just COVID. We did have to stop after COVID.
Oh, that's
Oh, that's true too.
promise.
That's right.
Not to display how long it's been since I've been at the gym.
That went over really well. Good.
Sounds.
See, when things are good, things are good. When you're not.
All right, next on the agenda, moving along. I guess old business. Does anyone have any old business they want to speak about? No old business.
Are we going to do any of the committees or anything like that? That we're going to do?
Let me see. In terms of old business, it's kind of new business, but
Right.
whatever.
Okay. All right.
I'm thinking that we did have product that was in between Lori and Dan in terms of proposed zoning that we could, conceptually have printed out and then just sort of review. All right, and decide that, like if it's something we want to do or not do, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, well, that's the next
Oh, so
one.
I thought we had to
Right.
vote on the committee.
Well,
We did that?
yeah, well, we have we have the master plan
Okay.
subcommittee, and then we have a zoning review subcommittee.
Okay.
And again, just to reiterate the purpose of that, that's just that if any proposed zoning amendments come in, I would like the people on the subcommittee to have first crack at, to review them. All right. Anything they do is just a matter of ministerial type work that then is presented to the board, and then the board would vote whether or not to move forward to discuss or not move forward on. All right, so I think that's what's being contemplated there. Master plan, again, is something that, I think, we have a number of individuals, I
It
think
was
3.
Tim and somebody, who else was it?
Tim,
Yes.
Nolan.
Nolan,
and
yep.
I believe you're on it.
No, I'm doing the zoning.
I think you got voted in on the master plan.
you got voted in.
You got both?
Right,
I seem to remember that.
right.
Okay.
So,
Not only
We'll
did
talk
you get
after the
voted in,
meeting.
I think you raised your hand. I think it was a volunteer action.
so the idea is that the master plan is something that, the planning board's working on continuously.
Okay.
And, I think Tim had mentioned that from an economic development perspective, we're looking to actually kind of fill in those parts, the implementation portion of the economic development plan. So, that's what's contemplated there, so that if, let's say, Tim were working on it,
Chick-fil-A.
or if 2 people got together, they would have to post a public notice indicating that they were going to meet. They would meet, they'd have to take minutes, and then, whatever product was produced in that subcommittee would have to be presented again to the planning board. So there's nothing that's happening in terms of like stuff being implemented.
As long as when they meet and they get the minutes together, that they take and make the copies and things like that, because that will take more time from any of the staff in this town hall. So it shouldn't be a big deal. If they're taking minutes, they should be able to take it. Just make a copy for the board.
Why do you?
Yeah, oh yeah. No, I don't think that's I don't think that's unreasonable. Okay.
That's Dan's duty. He's the secretary.
Right.
She's on the board, she gets to assign.
I'm just the member. He's the secretary.
Nope, you do shorthand, Dan.
One last thing, maybe to see if we want to entertain it. I think I had mentioned a couple times whether or not this board wanted to be involved in, sort of conceptually, sort of a beautification type,
That's what I thought I
process
saw.
in Plastow. Wyndham has a subcommittee on their planning board that does beautification.
They do beautiful work.
On
Beautiful.
111 going into Wyndham.
No, I mean for town here.
Okay. How about in front of the post office?
Our buildings. Anyway.
Okay.
The post office itself?
Yes, in front of that. Now, that's federal property, but I did speak to the postmaster, all right? And so the way it works with the post office is that they have a small amount of money to do landscaping, all right? They don't have, the issue seems to be that they don't have enough to do all their landscaping, all right? So with respect to the front, what I propose is that that we could work with them. Right? I mean, given the fact that the post office is sort of a premier building in town, right? It's one of the nicer post offices in the area, all right? But for the fact that you have a impenetrable hedge in front of it. In fact, you can't even see the no parking sign because it's completely, engulfed.
Right.
All right. So, I would like to maybe contemplate getting together maybe, interested parties in the town that can then maybe assist them, coordinate with them, and we get a plan together, remove that hedge, and then if we could have, some sort of landscaping that everyone's on board with, including the post office, perhaps getting interested parties to contribute their time, effort, maybe resources, and that's a quick hit, I think.
Lions Club would do it.
Post office have funding that they can give us to work with,
That's the whole point. They have very limited funding.
or whatever they have, can we have?
I think that would be sort of a discussion that we could have with them. I mean, if it was a question of like removing what's there, and then a question of putting stuff in, and everyone's sort of, has a conceptual idea of what it looks like, everyone signs off on it, and then, we make it happen.
Who does the town hall every Memorial Day? Somebody always it used to be Brenda Major and a couple of us would just do it anyway. But now I don't know
We
who.
have a landscaper that does the town hall.
Okay, all right.
Part of his, the town hall, the post office.
Yeah, because I remember we always used to do the little path, that went down this way on both
We
sides.
do have volunteers.
Okay.
Some of them do the paths out front with flowers.
Right, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, something more like that. And that's really for the front of the building, and that's done by volunteers. And
There
I used
might
to do
be
that.
a charity or something
Does the
that would do
AGO
that. They're
to come
doing
in
that in
and have to
Atkinson, where
pull out
there's
some
some
crap
planning being
Planning
done
all
on
the-
municipal buildings.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, just to have the discussion,
5
Yeah.
hours of
right?
their
Just so we could have the discussion. That if there are some sort of charities that could support it, bring them all together, and if people contributed some sort of resources, in terms of, whatever, capital type landscaping plants and things like that.
Biggest resource would be the people themselves.
Right, exactly. It'd be-
But I think it's a quick hit. I mean, again, it's a nice building. You can't see it. And, frankly, I talked to the inspector who does the area around here, the postal inspector. And, I talked to the postmaster who talked to her boss, because there was some concern whether or not you could have somebody come on to federal
Actually
property.
do it.
And the federal government would say like, no, you can't do it. So it's like, well, how can we help you to, arrive at this sort of mutual destination we want to be at, which is a nice landscaped front of the post office. And I don't think it's too intensive in terms of planning.
It's not that much real estate.
I mean, it might involve like, removing whatever's there. I mean, I don't know what's there. I don't know
Putting
if
in
it's
new
just, I don't know if it's like cut down something and it's like, oh, look.
It's all poison ivy.
Hey,
The vast majority
Probably is.
so,
of it goes.
There you go.
so, maybe something to think about, let's say on our next workshop, right? And, if anyone knows of any type of charity or something, what they do in Atkinson, and maybe we can leverage that idea and maybe
Ask
it's a
them.
quick hit, So that's where I'm going with that. So, and then if it's a success, then maybe,
Next building.
So homework for us, drive around town, and if you see something.
Pick the buildings.
see something that would help us look nice, something that could benefit from.
Well,
overall.
one,
well, if we can do one, then it can be the model for other things.
what
No,
about
but I'm
that
just-
little
yeah.
town thing that's
But
sitting
if I
out
see
there in the
something that I
beginning?
think is appealing,
I like the way you described that.
then perhaps I can, I'll just bring that as a
Townhouse.
Yeah, no,
mental
Townhouse.
note to the
What
next
is it?
meeting, say, hey, I was looking at
Meeting house.
Richard Anthony's house, and that really needs some new update.
yes, if you want to come by and mow the lawn, or show me how to do it, fantastic.
He'll bring the bill.
No, I'm bringing up the meeting house that still sits like an ugly, ugly building, and it's our entrance into Plasto Village.
Yeah.
Who is doing what and when?
One thing at a time is what I say. So if we could do the front of the post office, we can use it as a model.
I just want to
for
know,
other
where are the
things,
people that are buying that?
Right?
Are they still
Tobacco
there?
Junction?
Tobacco Junction.
All right.
Okay, that's not the people that originally bought it.
It is.
It's the same people.
The same.
Oh, they just changed their, okay,
Just,
all right.
they put up a sign to the.
So when are they going to kind of make
Okay.
it look
I don't know,
nice?
they're kind of. in
They're
there
working
sometimes.
on it.
It's a slow burn.
And
Okay.
in terms of our homework again, 2 meetings ago, we did have something that was put in front of us. I really do want to sort of formalize in a robust way how we take in applications in the completeness process. All right. Completeness is, again, before we take jurisdiction of something, there is a checklist that we're looking to do. And if it's satisfied, then we're saying that we're going to take jurisdiction of it. All right. The proposed amendments to our site plans, I indicated is that maybe we should have an affirmative zoning determination about the current use of an application that's coming before us, and then also the proposed use. All right. So that you have something that's affirmatively there. We have it as part of the checklist, and it has to be in the checklist. And then we should be clear in the mechanism if we find it problematic. All right, just so that we're not sitting here contemplating what do we do if it is deemed to be problematic. I mean, that's not being adversarial. That's saying that if this board were to appeal something because we don't agree, let's say if it's a zoning question, similar to application maybe came before us. What's the mechanism for doing that? Well, we should probably have it spelled out so that we can say that this is what happens if, do we want to consider it a part of the completeness? That if we object to, let's say, the zoning determination, do we say that we don't accept jurisdiction of it until it's adjudicated through the appropriate channels? Well, no, we do have a checklist, but in terms of, let's say, zoning.
It's rushed.
No, I don't think
It's
it's,
rushed.
I don't think it's rushed.
It's ambiguous in some areas.
Right.
And all I think what I'm getting from Richard is to make it clearer as to what's on that checklist.
At the beginning.
Because it helps the applicant if we're clear.
Right.
Ambiguity is
clock.
the enemy of these processes. It's the enemy of zoning ordinances. And the clearer we can be, the better it is for the applicant and the better it is for us.
Right.
I mean, from just observing some of this process, I think it's problematic for us to accept jurisdiction over a site plan when there's a question as to its zoning and even a question as to how a piece of property is being used.
Right.
in my mind, those things should be settled
I agree.
before we take jurisdiction.
I agree. And the clock starts.
And that's, you know,
That's the
we're
big thing.
we're under a time frame to get things done promptly,
Right.
which is fair to the applicant. You know, that's what it should be.
That's true. Right.
Well, to the
But we
point,
need the beginning.
to the point of it being fair to the applicant, if there was something deficient, right, and I think that's what we did, is that, you know, it isn't just a matter of we're not accepting jurisdiction of it, but we're stating the reason why we're not stating.
You have to do
Right.
that under the RSA's.
Right.
So that's
Now.
So,
No.
so the applicant, if they were to resubmit, you know, we've told them what the remedy, the potential remedy is to cure that.
But it would be nice to do that at the very beginning.
Well, that's what we're saying when we want to
I
do
know.
it.
That's,
Where, you know, so I think, you know, if this board wants to move forward on something like that, sort of front loading those considerations in to the completeness portion of it, I think does a service to this board and doesn't then, we're scrambling around once we accept jurisdiction of it. So, you know, maybe we could talk more about that at our homework session.
I mean, I think the comments that, you know, Attorney Rennie made on the kind of initial draft, you know, are good ones. You know,
Yep.
Essentially consolidating and making it clear, you know, seem to me, at least in the subdivision regulations, the site plans are fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
And then to me, you would have to then take a look at the checklist and make sure that matches.
Right, we'd probably be adding a condition
right.
onto that checklist.
Adding a condition, right.
So, anyone else have anything that they want to add to the
That's good.
agenda of consideration, old business, new business,
Uh,
communications?
Oh, no, we got one.
Well, we do have one thing after this, sorry.
Yeah, oh, if it's new business, it's more of a housekeeping thing. I don't know who's in charge of it, but our meetings aren't coming up on the homepage in upcoming business. So if you go to the planning board landing site, you can see it, but it's not in upcoming. So if you go right to the homepage and you want to see what's going on, you can't see it. None of the meetings, and to be fair, we're not the only committee that's not showing up. But yeah, we probably can figure that out.
Charlene, who updates that? I mean, if we wanted to have the planning,
Are you talking about the calendar?
Yes.
Yeah.
the planning board
they're always
calendar
behind.
reflected on the main calendar
If
when you
that.
go out onto the town website.
I personally don't have access to any of that myself. So you have to go.
Nor do I. No.
It's a mystery.
That's better.
Okay. All right. I think we have one piece of a bond release request.
Oh,
If no one else has anything, we'll move on to the
Nope.
the bond.
Talked about it a couple of times where it kind of gets lost is, are we still considering asking for individual email addresses for members of the planning board?
yeah, I would like to get a new one. I really would.
I know that you've got planning board chair, but is that
Right.
something we want to?
Yeah.
Well, we could put it forward. I mean,
Instead of using
I
ours, having our own for school board, like you do for selectmen, like you do for other.
the
committees.
school board, individual school board members have
Yes,
their own
Well,
email.
I
mean,
did at the time.
I had actually asked, this is before any of this, I had actually asked the board this months ago because there's been several occasions that I've wanted to contact people on various boards and I wasn't able to do it. They said they were going to look into it, but I don't think anything has ever been done with it.
So it's inconsistent. Some boards, the members have their own emails, some don't.
Right.
Typically, I can only tell you, because I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong or whatever. Selectmen each had their own. Then it was always the chairman of each board outside of that that had a direct email. And that was up to the chairman to take and pass along whatever they felt was pertinent to the rest of the board. Again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, I'm just saying that that's the way it is right now.
Yeah, I think right now each of the admins, that if you're going to communicate to the board or want something communicated, admin then sends it out blind CC to, the
One thing I'd
individuals.
maybe recommend, if that becomes a challenge, right, for whatever reason, is at least to have the plan board chair at plastow.com email prominently available on the website. I can't remember where it is.
All right.
I think
It's not.
it says plan chair.
Yeah.
It's,
And do you directly get that, Richard?
I'd have to test that.
so,
So.
I don't necessarily
So I
know.
take it you haven't gotten any emails?
I have an email. No, I do have a Plasto plan chair, but if you're saying if I go out to the
Oh, no, I
website.
mean, has anyone
Let me
sent you
finish.
any?
Well, yeah, there's been a flood of emails coming in from the public to the planning board.
Yeah,
chair.
okay.
No. So I haven't tested it. I could go out to the website and email myself and see if an email comes or if it goes somewhere else first. Not to be sarcastic, but
Well, I've only been asking for one
all right.
for,
Well, let's do this.
11
It's
years?
budget. It's
Am I going on
it's-
11?
We're coming up for budget considerations. I believe everyone should have got CC'd did everyone get the budget?
so can we put a line item in there for planning board member emails?
Maybe.
Can we add some
Maybe.
other line code?
There we are. Look at that. We have the
Yeah,
planning board
right.
budget here. So let's see let's hypothetically look into how much
I've
it would
got
cost.
so much on mine that I need to have this separate.
I had
No, really.
heard that it would cost $100
We'll find out,
a year.
we'll find
for
out
each member.
definitely what that
Oh,
costs.
really?
I have no idea. Seems awful
But
high.
that's just what I've heard.
Well,
Okay.
we're going to get something definite on that. Hypothetical emails, because we have had conversations where the planning board legal counsel's been in here and was kind of taken aback at the fact that we all didn't have dedicated planning board email addresses.
This email is
So,
going to get
just-
so
many
yeah,
of mine.
Richard, on our website, it says planning board members and it has Jay as a selectman's representative. And you can click on, his name is highlighted, you can click on him and contact him through the site, but you can't click on your name. Or, of course, not.
Why
any
would
of
it go
us.
to Jay
So,
first?
At the very least, I would recommend, if you're having a discussion about the calendar, which is a website
Right.
thing,
Right.
to potentially have your name clickable, or at least your email clickable for the planning board chair, so the public.
Sounds reasonable. All right.
So we're not going to get ours then.
All right. What do we have here?
You'll get it when I'm off the board. March of 2025.
I'm just 1 year
All right.
after.
On March 16th, 2022, the planning board set the bond amount for the above noted project at $11,910.54, 10% of the total project site costs of $119,105.38 in accordance with the planning board subdivision review regulations, Article 1, 235-1, subsection 10B, construction bonds. A bank letter of credit was posted by the applicant. We're talking about bond release request for 27 Plastow Road, Nassau Jewelers, Seaman Properties. The project is now complete. Keach Nordstrom Associates, KNA, has conducted the final inspection of the site work, and the certificate of occupancy has been issued by the Department of Building Safety. Please find attached the following item: applicant's letter requesting the release of the bond, final inspection report from KNA, letter from Jeff Quirk of KNA recommending the release of the bond. All right, so draft motion. I move per the review and recommendation from Keach Nordstrom Associates dated August 14th, 2024, that the construction bond for the retail amended site plan project known as Nassau Jewelers at 27 Plastow Road be released.
Second? Oh,
Darrell. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. All right. I think that's it. No one has anything else?
nope.
I close this meeting at 8:16. Thank you.
Very
Wow.
good. No, we're getting good now. Let's go last meeting.